Ms. Carter, I'm showing a current balance of $4,216.
What?
4,216.
That's all that's left?
Yes, the recent transactions.
How? That's impossible.
Let me explain.
Tell me about my savings account.
We needed it. We couldn't ask you. You would have said no.
Three months earlier, Maya Carter had made herself a promise. Before Eli turned 1, she would have a home of their own. She was 29, an emergency room nurse, and the mother of a 4-month-old boy. Her life was exhausting, but she had learned to keep moving through exhaustion. She worked double shifts when they were available, cooked at home, skipped expensive outings, and checked her savings every Sunday morning with coffee in one hand and her phone in the other. The number had become a quiet reward. $61,400. It represented 3 years of sacrifice. Every extra shift had gone into that account. Every vacation she had postponed. Every birthday dinner she had replaced with something simple at home. Maya wasn't saving to impress anyone. She wanted a safe 2-bedroom apartment near a good school, somewhere Eli could grow up with a park nearby. Her mother, Diane, knew about the savings. So did her sister, Serena. Maya had never considered that dangerous. Family had always meant helping. When Diane's working hours were cut, Maya sent money. When Serena needed help with fertility treatment, Maya paid bills she could afford at the time. When someone called her the strong one, Maya usually smiled and kept going. She never imagined that the family had begun treating her strength like a resource they were entitled to. Then came the Tuesday that changed everything. After a 12-hour shift, Maya went to the bank because she was preparing to make an offer on the apartment she had been watching for months. She expected to see the same number. Instead, the banker had told her she had barely $4,000 left. She had walked out in disbelief, called Diane, and heard that devastating answer. But there was one thing Maya hadn't yet understood. The money had not simply disappeared into some family emergency. It had been used for Serena's 4th fertility treatment, and Serena was now 7 months pregnant. Maya drove straight to her sister's apartment. When Serena opened the door, Maya didn't waste time. "You used my money." Serena's face fell. "Maya, please. The money I was saving for Eli's home. We were going to tell you." "When?" Serena looked away. "How long have you known?" 4 years, Serena whispered. "I've been trying for 4 years." Maya's anger softened for 1 second. Then Serena said, "You got pregnant without even trying. You don't know what this feels like." Maya stared at her. "Serena, I need you to hear what you're saying." Her sister wiped her eyes. "Mama said you had more than enough. She said you'd always land on your feet." Maya's expression changed. "What else did Mama say?" Serena hesitated. "She said Eli deserved to grow up with family around him. Real family. A stable situation." Maya went completely still. "What exactly did you and Mama decide about Eli?" Serena said nothing. "Tell me." "We thought, with J-Ho gone, and you working all those hours, and the money situation." "What?" Serena swallowed. "We thought Eli might be better with us." Maya stared at her sister. "With you?" "With more stability," Serena whispered. "A 2-parent home. Someone who could be there full-time. You were going to take my son. We love Eli." "That isn't what I asked." Serena began crying. Maya stepped backward. "You stole my savings," she said quietly. "And then you used the situation you created to decide I'm not stable enough to raise my own child." "Maya, Ellie is my son." She turned toward the door. "He will remain my son." Outside, Maya sat in her car and called Miss Yoon, a family attorney whose number she had saved 6 months earlier, under one phrase: "Just in case." "Miss Yoon?" "Yes? I need help." "What happened?" "My family took $61,400 from my savings. Now they're talking about taking my son." There was a pause. "Come tomorrow morning," Miss Yoon said. "Bring your bank records, every message, every receipt, anything in writing." "I have the bank records." "Get more." "How?" "Before they know you're collecting it." Maya's fingers tightened around the phone. "How soon can we move?" "Tomorrow." That night, Maya went to her mother's house to pick up Eli. The front door was unlocked. Eli was sleeping in his bouncer. Maya heard voices in the kitchen. Her mother, her sister. She could have picked up her son and left. Instead, she stood in the hallway, took out her phone, opened the voice recorder, and pressed record. Then Diane said something that made Maya realize the money was only the beginning. She doesn't have to agree. Serena's voice followed. She won't agree to anything. You know how she is. Diane answered calmly. She just has to be shown that fighting is harder than cooperating. Maya stopped breathing. Then Diane lowered her voice. We file before she gets back on her feet, Serena asked. And if she gets the money back? Diane answered without hesitation. We move before that happens. Maya kept recording. For the first time, she understood exactly what they were planning. They had already started. Diane's last words stayed in Maya's head all the way home. We move before she gets back on her feet. Maya had heard enough. She picked up Eli, carried him to the car, and drove home without confronting either woman. Once inside, she locked the door. Then she placed her phone on the kitchen table and played the recording again. 8 minutes. 8 minutes and 40 seconds. Every word was there. The discussion about her money. The discussion about her work schedule. The discussion about Jae-ho. And, most importantly, the plan to challenge her right to raise her own son. Maya listened twice. Then she called Miss Yoon. I have the recording. How clear is it? Very clear. Did they know you were recording? No. Good. Don't tell them yet. Maya looked toward Eli's room. They're planning to file against me. I know. How? Because people who believe they're going to win usually make the mistake of talking too much. Maya swallowed. What happens now? We prepare. The next morning, Maya arrived at Miss Yoon's office, carrying a folder so thick she had to hold it with both hands. Bank statements, transfer records, receipts, massage, every payment she had ever made to her mother, every medical bill she had helped Serena cover. Miss Yoon opened the folder and started going through it. She stopped at one page. How much was in the account before the withdrawals? 61,400. In what's left? 4,216. Miss Yoon calculated the difference. $57,184. Maya nodded. They told me it was for Serena's treatment. Did you authorize any of it? No. Did you give your mother access? No. Did you ever agree that these payments were loans? No. Miss Yoon leaned back. Then this isn't simply a family disagreement. Maya looked at her. What is it? Evidence. That word settled heavily between them. Miss Yoon opened the recording. Diane's voice filled the office. We file before she gets back on her feet. Miss Yoon listened without interrupting. When the recording ended, she sat quietly for several seconds. They made another mistake. What? They told you their plan. Maya frowned. They're going to argue that you're unstable because you're working long hours, that Jae-ho is absent, and that you don't have enough financial security. Maya nodded. That's what they said. Miss Yoon pointed toward the folder. Except they helped create every one of those conditions. Maya understood immediately. The empty savings account, the stress, the financial instability, all of it could be traced back to them. Miss Yoon continued. They didn't just take your money. They created the evidence they intended to use against you. Maya stared at her. So what do? We file first. Maya's heart began pounding. Before them? Before them. How long? Miss Yoon looked at the clock. Today. By noon, the paperwork was prepared. By 2, Maya had signed it. By 3, her protective motion regarding Eli had been filed. For the first time since the bank, Maya felt like she had stopped running behind the problem. She was finally moving ahead of it. Then her phone buzzed. A message from Diane. We need to talk. This has gone far enough. You're tearing this family apart. Maya stared at the screen. She almost laughed. Instead, she showed Miss Yoon. Do not respond, the attorney said. Maya put the phone away. That evening, something unexpected happened. Jae-ho called. His name appearing on her screen made her freeze. For 6 weeks, everyone had told her the same thing. Jae-ho was gone. There had been a business dispute. Something had happened involving people connected to his family's organization. Nobody gave her a straight answer. She had spent 42 days wondering whether he was alive. Now his name was on her screen. Maya answered. Hello? There was breathing on the other end. Then his voice. Maya. She closed her eyes. Yeah, Ho? I'm coming home. Her hand tightened around the phone. Where are you? Seoul Airport. Her breath caught. When? 14 hours. Maya sat down. Are you hurt? Not anymore. She looked toward Eli's crib. Eli is fine. I know. Hey, pals. I've been trying to get back. There's something you need to know. Tell me. My mother took almost all of my savings. Silence. She took $61,400? Maya froze. How did you know? Someone told me. Who? I'll explain when I get there. Maya swallowed. There's more. What? My mother and Serena are planning to challenge me for custody of Eli. The silence on the phone changed. Not shock. Something colder. Are you sure? I heard them discussing it. You recorded them? Yes. Jeho exhaled. Good. Maya frowned. Good? Keep that recording safe. Jeho, what's happening? I'll tell you when I get home. She hated that answer. But something in his voice told her not to push. 14 hours, he said. 14 hours. He ended the call. Maya remained seated, staring at the phone. For weeks, she had been fighting one battle. Now it felt like several pieces of her life were moving toward the same collision. Her mother's betrayal, Serena's pregnancy, the missing money, the custody plan, and now Jeho was coming home. But Maya didn't know that his return would create another problem. Because 3 days after he arrived, her mother would make the first official move. And this time, she wouldn't be talking. She would be filing. 3 days later, Diane Carter filed. Maya was sitting at the kitchen table when Miss Yoon called. They filed this morning. Maya's stomach dropped. I knew they would. I know. That's why we filed first. What are they saying? Miss Yoon was quiet for a moment. They're saying you're financially unstable, that you're working too many hours, that Jeho's absence creates an unsafe environment. They're questioning whether Eli has adequate stability. Maya closed her eyes. They're using the money they took from me against me. Exactly. And the court won't know that? They will. How? I'll show them. The petition arrived that afternoon. Maya read it once, then again. Every paragraph felt like someone had taken pieces of her life and rearranged them into a story she barely recognized. It described Diane as a concerned grandmother, Serena as a loving aunt. Maya was described as overwhelmed, unstable, financially vulnerable. The document mentioned her long hospital shifts. It mentioned Jeho's disappearance. It mentioned the depleted savings account. But nowhere did it explain why the account had been depleted. Maya put the papers down. They actually wrote this. Miss Yoon nodded. They did. They're saying I'm unstable because they emptied my account. That is exactly what they're saying. Maya laughed once. There was no humor in it. So they created the problem and then used the problem as evidence. Yes. Maya looked at her attorney. How do we stop them? We don't just stop them. Miss Yoon opened her folder. We dismantle their argument. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks later. Those 3 weeks changed Maya. She kept working. She kept caring for Eli. But now every action had a purpose. Every receipt went into a folder. Every message was saved. Every conversation was documented. Miss Yoon taught her something Maya hadn't understood before. Don't try to prove that your mother is a bad person, she said. What should I prove? That you are a good mother. Maya nodded. And let the evidence explain what they did. That became the strategy. No angry messages. No public accusations. No social media posts. No confrontation. Just evidence. Then, 2 weeks before the hearing, Maya received a call from Dr. Okafor. I heard there was a court matter. Maya sat down. Yes. I don't know all the details. You don't need to. I know you. Maya's eyes burned. Dr. Okafor continued. I've watched you through your pregnancy. I've watched you after Eli was born. I've watched how you care for that child. Maya swallowed. Thank you. Don't thank me. Dr. Okafor's voice became firm. If they ask what I've observed, I'll tell them exactly what I've observed. That night, Jeho sat beside Maya at the kitchen table. Eli was asleep in the next room. They're going to question you about your family, Maya said. I know. They'll bring up your father's business. I know. They'll ask where you were. I'll tell them. Maya looked at him. You don't have to protect me. I know. Then why are you doing this? Jeho looked toward Eli's room. Because I'm his father. He paused. And because I disappeared once, I'm not disappearing again. Maya didn't answer. She reached across the table and took his hand. 3 weeks later, they arrived at the courthouse. Diane and Serena were already there. Maya saw them across the lobby. Her mother wore a gray coat. Serena was still pregnant. For a moment, Maya remembered when she had paid Serena's first treatment. She remembered sending money. She remembered telling her sister, "Don't worry, we'll figure it out." She had never imagined those words would lead them here. Serena looked at her. Neither woman smiled. Then the courtroom doors opened. Everyone went inside. Judge Huang entered a few minutes later. She reviewed the documents. Then she looked at both sides. Let's begin. Diane's attorney stood first. He spoke smoothly. He described Diane and Serena as concerned family members. He talked about Maya's long work hours. He talked about Jae-ho's absence. He talked about financial instability. He used the word welfare repeatedly. Maya sat still. Miss Yoon wrote one sentence on her legal pad. Then it was her turn. Your Honor, she said, I'd like to begin with the savings account. Diane's attorney immediately shifted in his chair. Miss Yoon placed a bank statement before the judge. 18 months ago, Miss Carter had $61,400 in savings. Another document. Today she has $4,216. Another. These withdrawals were made without her authorization. The judge looked up. By whom? Miss Yoon turned toward Diane. Members of the petitioning family. The room went silent. Diane's attorney stood. Your Honor, these were funds used for medical treatment within the family. Miss Yoon nodded. We don't dispute where the money went. She placed another document down. We dispute authorization. Judge Huang looked at Diane. Did your daughter authorize these withdrawals? Diane hesitated. We intended to repay her. That wasn't my question. Diane looked down. No. Maya felt her heart pound. Miss Yoon continued. And the petitioners subsequently cited the resulting depletion of Miss Carter's savings as evidence that she was financially unstable. The judge looked at the documents again. Then Miss Yoon said, Your Honor, we have an audio recording. Diane's head snapped up. Serena went pale. Maya didn't look at them. Miss Yoon pressed play. Diane's voice filled the courtroom. She doesn't have to agree. Then Serena. She won't agree to anything. You know how she is. Then Diane again. She just has to be shown that fighting is harder than cooperating. The courtroom became completely silent. Then came the sentence Maya had heard in that hallway. We file before she gets back on her feet. Judge Huang listened to every word. When the recording ended, she looked directly at Diane. Mrs. Carter, can you explain what we just heard? Diane's attorney leaned toward her. Diane whispered something. The judge waited. Finally, Diane said, We were concerned about Eli. Judge Huang's expression didn't change. Concern does not explain the financial transactions. Diane said nothing. Then Miss Yoon called Dr. Okafor. The doctor testified calmly. She described Maya's prenatal care, her postpartum recovery, her attention to Eli, her consistency, her judgment. Then she said something that made Maya's throat tighten. In 14 months, I have never had reason to question Maya Carter's fitness as a mother. Diane's attorney objected. Judge Huang overruled him. Then Jae-ho took the stand. His testimony was difficult. Diane's attorney questioned his family history, his business connections, his disappearance. Jae-ho answered every question. No excuse. No evasion. Then Miss Yoon asked him, What changed in your life? Jae-ho looked at Maya, then at the judge. I stepped away from my family's business operations. When? 18 months ago. And why? He paused. I have a son. The courtroom was silent. I want him to know who his father is, Jae-ho continued. Not who his father came from, who his father chose to be. Maya lowered her eyes. For the first time since this began, she felt something loosen inside her. Then the judge called a recess. 20 minutes. Maya walked into the hallway. She thought the hardest part was over. She was wrong. Serena was standing alone at the other end of the hallway. She walked toward Maya slowly. Maya. Maya stopped. Serena's eyes were red. I didn't think it would go this far. Maya stared at her. You knew exactly how far it was supposed to go. Serena shook her head. I was desperate. So was I. Serena started crying. I wanted this baby so badly. I know. I stopped thinking. Maya's expression softened slightly. And that's the problem. Serena wiped her face. I am sorry. Maya looked at her sister for several seconds. I believe you're sorry. Serena looked hopeful. But being sorry doesn't erase what you did. The hope disappeared. I know. Maya nodded. Go take care of your baby. Serena touched her stomach. Then she walked away. Maya remained in the hallway. She had no idea that in a few minutes, Judge Huang would return with a decision. And that decision would determine whether Maya walked out of that courthouse with her son, or with the fight of her life just beginning. Judge Huang returned to the courtroom 20 minutes later. Everyone took their seats. Maya sat beside Miss Yoon, her hands folded tightly in her lap. Jae-ho sat behind them, silent. Diane and Serena sat across the room. Judge Huang looked down at the documents in front of her. Then she looked at Maya. Miss Carter, I want to be very clear about what this court has heard today. Maya held her breath. The financial instability described in the petition was not simply a circumstance that happened to you. Judge Huang lifted one of the bank statements. It was substantially created by unauthorized withdrawals from your personal savings. Diane lowered her head. The judge continued. And those withdrawals were subsequently used to support an argument that you were financially incapable of providing a stable environment for your child. Maya felt tears gathering in her eyes. She didn't let them fall. Judge Huang turned toward Diane. Mrs. Carter, your recorded conversation is particularly concerning. Diane's attorney shifted. Judge Huang continued. You discussed filing against your daughter before she had an opportunity to recover financially. Diane looked up. We were trying to help Eli. The judge's expression hardened. Then you should have come to this court with evidence of concern for Eli. Instead, the evidence presented suggests that you helped create the very instability you now cite against his mother. Nobody spoke. Judge Huang looked toward Miss Yoon. Is there anything further? 2. Miss Yoon stood. Yes, Your Honor. She placed one final folder on the table. This contains 8 years of financial records showing Miss Carter's consistent support of her family. Maya looked at the folder. She had forgotten how much was in it. Payments to her mother, medical bills for Serena, household expenses, emergency transfers, receipts, years of helping without asking for recognition. Miss Yoon opened it. She did not suddenly become financially irresponsible. She spent years supporting the same family, now petitioning against her. Diane closed her eyes. Judge Huang reviewed the documents. Then she looked at Maya. Miss Carter. Yes, Your Honor. You have maintained consistent employment? Yes. You have maintained medical care for your child? Yes. Your child has a stable place to live? Yes. And there is no documented evidence before this court that you are unfit to parent your son? Maya's voice became quiet. No, Your Honor. The judge nodded. Very well. She closed the file. Full parental rights remain with Maya Carter. Maya stopped breathing. The petition is denied. Jae-ho's hand covered his mouth. Maya stared at the judge. The words didn't feel real yet. Judge Huang continued. Regarding the unauthorized withdrawals, the financial documentation will be referred for appropriate recovery proceedings. Diane's face changed. The amount identified in the record is $57,184. Maya looked down. That number represented years. Years she could never get back. But it also represented something else now. Proof. Judge Huang looked directly at Diane. You will discuss repayment with your legal counsel. Diane nodded slowly. We're adjourned. The gavel came down. Maya sat still. For 3 seconds. Then Miss Yoon touched her arm. You won? Maya looked at her. No. Her voice broke. I protected him. Miss Yoon smiled. Yes. Jae-ho came around the table. He took Maya's hand. She let him. Across the room, Serena stood alone. She looked at Maya, then at the floor. Diane was gathering her papers. She didn't look toward her daughter. Maya watched her mother walk toward the courtroom doors. For 34 years, Diane had been the person Maya called when something went wrong. Now Maya watched her leave, knowing she could never go back to the relationship they had before. Outside, the afternoon air was cold. Maya stepped onto the courthouse stairs. Jae-ho stood beside her. What happens now? He asked. Maya answered immediately. Now I go get my son. She drove to Dr. Okafor's office. Eli was waiting with the babysitter. The moment Maya walked through the door, he looked up. His arms moved. Maya picked him up. Hi, baby. Eli grabbed her collar. She laughed through her tears. I've got you. She held him against her chest for a long moment. Jae-ho stood beside her. He looked at his son, then at Maya. You okay? She looked at him. I think I am. They drove home together. That evening, Maya placed Eli in his bouncer and sat at the kitchen table. The apartment was quiet. For the first time in weeks, she didn't have a legal document in front of her. No bank statement. No court filing. No recording. Just her laptop. She opened a blank document. Jae-ho walked into the kitchen. What are you doing? I've been thinking about something for months. What? Maya stared at the empty screen. After Eli was born, I realized how little support new mothers actually have. Jae-ho sat across from her. You want to start something? A postpartum care center. He smiled. You've already named it. She looked at him. How do you know? You've been talking about it for 4 months. Maya laughed softly. Tender hours. Jeho nodded. I like it. She began typing. For 2 hours, Maya worked. She wrote down everything she wished mothers had after leaving the hospital. Support. Information. Rest. Someone to talk to. Someone who understood that recovering from childbirth while caring for a newborn wasn't one problem. It was several problems happening at once. Jeho brought her tea. She looked at him. Thank you. You don't have to thank me. I know. He smiled. You're building something again. Maya looked at the screen. No. She shook her head. I'm building something for myself this time. 3 months later, Maya signed a lease for a 2-bedroom apartment. It wasn't the apartment she had originally wanted, but it was better. Good schools, a park 4 minutes away, enough space for Eli, and, most importantly, it belonged to the life she was building now. The first installment of the recovered money arrived that month. Maya deposited it into a new savings account. Only her name was on it. She checked it every Sunday morning with her coffee. But this time, she wasn't checking because she was afraid of losing it. She was checking because she knew exactly what it had taken to get it back. 6 months after the court hearing, Tender Hours opened. It was small. 3 rooms, a nursing station, a consultation room, a quiet space where exhausted mothers could rest while someone trained watched their babies. Dr. Okafor had helped Maya find the location. The first mothers came through referrals. Then more came. Then more. One woman told another. A mother left and told her friend. Soon the little center was full. Maya stood one morning inside the yellow-walled space and watched a young mother sleep peacefully for the first time in days. She smiled. Jeho appeared in the doorway carrying Eli. Eli was 7 months old now. He waved at the walls. Maya laughed. You see that? Jeho smiled. He thinks he owns the place. He probably does. They stood together. Maya looked around Tender Hours. This came from the worst year of my life. Jeho shook his head. No. She looked at him. It came from what you did after the worst year of your life. Maya smiled. He was right. She hadn't allowed betrayal to become her identity. She had used it to build something. Something her family couldn't take. Something nobody could empty from a bank account. Her confidence, her independence, her future, and most importantly, her son. That evening, Maya received a message. It was from Serena. My daughter was born today. Maya stared at the screen. A second message appeared. She's beautiful. Maya felt the old pain, but beneath it was something different. Not forgiveness. Not yet. Just the possibility that one day, if Serena truly took responsibility, they might find their way back to being sisters. Maya typed, she's beautiful. Take care of yourself. We'll talk when you're ready. She put the phone down. A few weeks later, Diane called. Maya almost didn't answer, but she did. Hello? Her mother's voice sounded different. I want to understand. Maya said nothing. What I did, Diane continued. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I want to understand. Maya closed her eyes. That's a start, Mama. It wasn't reconciliation. It wasn't the restoration of what had been, but it was a beginning. And Maya had learned something important. Sometimes winning doesn't mean getting everything back exactly as it was. Sometimes winning means building a life where the people who hurt you no longer control what happens next. She looked through the window at Eli sleeping in Jeho's arms. Then she smiled. The family that had tried to take everything from her had accidentally forced her to discover what was truly hers. Her son, her home, her purpose, and herself. The next morning, Maya woke before her alarm. For a few seconds, she forgot about the courthouse. She forgot about Diane. She forgot about the money. She forgot about the recording. Then she heard Eli making soft noises through the baby monitor, and everything came rushing back. But something was different. For the first time in weeks, the fear wasn't the first thing she felt. Relief was. Maya got out of bed and walked into Eli's room. He was awake, staring at the ceiling with his tiny hands moving through the air. Good morning, little man. Ah? Eli looked at her. Then he smiled. Maya picked him up. I told you I was going to keep you safe. She kissed his forehead. And I kept my promise. Downstairs, her phone buzzed. It was Miss Yoon. The recovery proceedings have been initiated. Your first installment should be processed within 30 days. Maya stared at the message. For years, she had thought getting the money back would be the thing that made her feel whole again. But now she understood something. The money mattered. The house mattered. The savings mattered, but none of them were the real victory. The real victory was that her mother could no longer tell her who she was. Her sister could no longer define her worth by her own pain. And Maya no longer had to prove that she deserved to be Eli's mother. She already was. Later that morning, Maya drove to Tender Hours. The sign had finally been installed above the entrance. She stood outside looking at it. Tender Hours. 2 simple words. But behind them were months of work. Every application, every meeting, every late night, every time she had wanted to quit, she opened the door. Inside, the center was quiet. A new mother was sitting in the consultation room, holding her newborn against her chest. She looked exhausted. Maya walked over. "First week?" The woman nodded. "I don't know what I'm doing." Maya smiled. "Neither did I." The woman looked surprised. "You?" Maya laughed softly. "Especially me." The woman smiled. Maya sat beside her. "You don't have to be perfect." The woman looked down at her baby. "My family keeps telling me I should be stronger." Maya paused. That word, strong. She had spent years being the strong one. Strong enough to send money. Strong enough to work doubles. Strong enough to solve everyone else's problems. Strong enough to remain silent. Strong enough to forgive before anyone apologized. Strong enough to carry burdens nobody had asked her if she could carry. She looked at the young mother. Being strong doesn't mean doing everything alone. The woman's eyes filled with tears. Maya continued. "Sometimes being strong means admitting you need help." The woman nodded. Maya reached for a box of tissues and placed it beside her. "You're allowed to be tired." The woman wiped her eyes. "Thank you." Maya smiled. "You're welcome." She walked away and looked through the glass wall. For a moment, she saw herself. Not the woman from the bank. Not the woman standing in the hallway. Not the woman sitting in the courtroom. Just Maya, a nurse, a mother, a business owner, a woman who had survived betrayal without becoming bitter. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was Serena. "Can we meet?" Maya stared at the message. She didn't answer immediately. She looked toward the consultation room, then toward the window, then back at her phone. Finally, she typed, "Tomorrow." The meeting took place at a small cafe near the park. Serena arrived carrying her newborn daughter. For several seconds, neither sister spoke. Then Serena carefully placed the baby carrier beside her. "She has your eyes." Maya smiled faintly. "She has her own eyes." Serena laughed through tears. "I deserve that." Maya looked at her. Serena took a breath. "I've been thinking about what you said." "Which part?" "That being sorry doesn't erase what I did." Maya nodded. "I was angry with you for a long time." "I know. I still am sometimes." Serena nodded. "I understand. But I'm not going to spend the rest of my life being angry." Serena's eyes filled. "What do you want from me?" Maya answered honestly. "The truth." Serena nodded. "You have it. And accountability. You have that too." Maya looked at her niece. "She didn't ask for any of this." "No. So whatever happens between us, she doesn't deserve to inherit it." Serena wiped her tears. "I agree." They sat quietly. It wasn't a perfect reconciliation. There was no dramatic hug. No instant forgiveness. No pretending the past had disappeared. But something important happened. For the first time, Serena stopped asking Maya to understand her pain and started understanding Maya's. That was the beginning, not the ending. The following months were different. Diane continued making repayments. Slowly, consistently. She never missed one. She also stopped trying to force her way back into Maya's life. Instead, she waited. When Maya was ready to speak, Diane listened. When Maya said no, Diane accepted it. When Maya established a boundary, Diane respected it. And slowly, painfully, the relationship changed. Not back into what it had been. Into something new. Something more honest. One Sunday morning, Maya sat at her kitchen table with her coffee. Eli was crawling across the living room. Jay-Ho was trying to stop him from pulling a plant off the shelf. "Eli," the baby laughed. Jay-Ho caught him. "You are becoming a dangerous man." Maya laughed. She opened her banking app. The balance had grown again. Not to $61,400. Not yet, but it was growing. And this time, every dollar had a different meaning. She wasn't saving because she was afraid. She was saving because she had a future. She closed the app. Then she looked at Jay-Ho. "You know what I realized?" "What?" "I spent years thinking my family was my responsibility." Jay-Ho sat beside her. "And now?" Maya looked toward Eli. "Now I know my family is my responsibility." She paused. But not everyone who calls themselves family is entitled to me. Jeho smiled. That sounds like something you should put on a wall. Maya laughed. Maybe I will. She looked around the apartment. The apartment she had once believed she would never be able to afford. The home she had imagined from that listing she had viewed 47 times. It wasn't exactly the same. It was better, because this time, she had chosen it without anyone else's permission. Later that year, tender hours expanded. 5 rooms became 8. 1 nurse became 4. The small waiting room became a resource center, and Maya began receiving messages from women in other cities asking how they could create something similar. She started training other nurses. She started speaking at community events. She never told her story as a story about revenge. Whenever someone asked what happened to her family, she answered, "They made a choice. And I made one too." That was all. Because Maya didn't want women to hear her story and think the lesson was to destroy the people who hurt them. She wanted them to understand something else. Protect yourself. Document everything. Set boundaries. Ask for help. And when people try to convince you that you're too weak to stand on your own, don't spend your life trying to convince them. Stand. The rest will speak for itself. One evening, nearly 2 years after the day at the bank, Maya stood outside tender hours after closing. Jeho was waiting by the car. Eli, now a toddler, was asleep in his seat. Maya locked the door. She looked up at the sign. Tender hours. Jeho walked toward her. "You ready?" She smiled. "Yeah." They got into the car. As they drove home, Maya looked through the window at the city lights. She thought about that Tuesday. The banker. The $4,216. The phone call. Her mother's silence. The hallway. The recording. The courtroom. The gavel. The first day at tender hours. All of it had started with a number on a computer screen. But that number had eventually forced Maya to discover something money could never buy. The courage to stop being useful to people who only loved what she could provide. She looked at Eli sleeping in the back seat. Then she looked at Jeho. "I think I'm finally okay." Jeho smiled. "I know." Maya laughed. "How?" "Because you're not trying to convince anyone anymore." She looked out the window. He was right. She wasn't. And somewhere behind them, the life she had once believed was falling apart had finally become the life she had chosen. Not because her family gave it to her, not because Jeho rescued her, not because the court saved her, because Maya Carter finally understood that she had been the one holding the pieces together all along. She just needed to stop giving those pieces away. If this story made you angry, emotional, or made you think about someone in your own family, tell us in the comments. Would you have forgiven Maya's family after everything they did, or would you have walked away permanently? And if you stayed with Maya all the way to the end, thank you. Please like this video because it helps this story reach someone who may need to hear it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe now because more stories are coming. Stories about betrayal, stories about family, stories about women who are pushed too far and what happens when they finally decide they've had enough. Maya thought her family had stolen her future. They hadn't. They had only forced her to stop giving it away. And sometimes, the greatest thing you can recover isn't the money someone took from you. It's yourself.